But Hudson Taylor, if you've never heard that name, he was a missionary in China for 51 years. Our second son is named after Hudson Taylor, in case you didn't know that. But part of Hudson's testimony is that in his teenage years, he became ill-tempered. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced an ill-tempered teenager, but that's what happened to Hudson Taylor. And not you, John Avay, you would never do that. But an ill-tempered teenager, and his father just got exasperated with him and just didn't know what to do. All right, but his mother, Hudson's mother, Amelia, understood Hudson in a way that his father James didn't, and so she just redoubled her efforts to be kind and gentle and patient towards him. And so she spoke to him and counseled him. But ultimately, Hudson's mother, Amelia, became convinced and convicted by the Holy Spirit that the absolute best thing she could do for him is to pray for him. And so one day, she took a holiday or a vacation, all right, away from her family. And as she was away from home, she felt compelled to increase the length and the earnestness of her prayers. And one day, while she was away, that compulsion grew in her to such a degree that she determined in her heart that she would pray to God and not stop until she felt a sense from the Holy Spirit that God was going to save her son. She just was convicted to do that. And so she just prayed and prayed that God would save her son. And then, all of a sudden, in the middle of her prayer, she just got this sense that she believed that God had answered her prayer. And so in that moment, away from home, away from her family, she just begins thanking and praising God for the salvation of her son, right? Well, meanwhile, back at home, Hudson had been at the home, all right? And he was bored, and he was discontent, and, they didn't have Netflix back then, okay? So he goes into his father's library. All right? He goes into his father's library and peruses the books and doesn't find anything interesting, and he comes across this little tract titled Poor Richard. And he reads the story in this little tract, all right? And he comes upon these words, the finished work of Christ. And the finished work of Christ. And when he reads those words in this little tract, all of a sudden, he understands that Christ did everything necessary for him to be saved, and all he needed to do was receive Christ's finished work by faith and trust in him. All right? And so literally in that moment, he fell on his knees and committed his life to Jesus and began praising God for his salvation, not realizing that miles away his mother was doing the exact same thing.